Hello and welcome back to Horror Nights History. Halloween Horror Nights has sparked a plethora of original characters for the event. Jack the Clown, the director, the storyteller, Lady Luck, there's a bunch. But there is one character that was intended to be an icon, but never fully got the chance to shine. And that character is Eddie Schmidt. Originally created for the 2001 event, Eddie Schmidt hasn't gotten the chance to fully shine as an icon. You probably know why. Today, we're going to talk about the history of Eddie at the event and the lore behind his character. In the late 1800s, Edgar Schmidt was born inside the Shady Brook Rest Home and Sanitarium, the same location his brother, John Schmidt, was born. In his youth, spurred on by his love of horror movies, Edgar put on a haunted house inside the trailer park he lived in. A rowdy group of teenagers that lived inside the trailer park with him decided they were going to prank him. They lit the haunt on fire, unaware that he was still inside. This led to his face and hands becoming permanently scarred. After that, Edgar decided to cover his scarring up with clown makeup. Later on, now going by the name Eddie, he would open up his own version of the funhouse that his brother operated, Run. This game show would have contestants escape from torture devices and chainsaw-wielding crew members without losing their minds. Years later, with the help of his brother Jack, Eddie was able to reopen Run, a murder-for-hire business. This iteration of Run would allow people to hire Eddie and his crew to torture and mutilate people for profit. This version of Run was promoted under the very misleading title of Oddfellows Ultimate Ventures, which catered to a far wealthier clientele. They would, of course, soon meet the same fate as the victims they hired for Eddie to kill. This is gonna be such an abrupt tone change. Oh my god. On September 11th, 2001, at 8:46 a.m. in New York City, a hijacked plane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Shortly after, at 9:03 a.m., a second plane would crash into the South Tower. At 9:37 a.m., a third plane crashed into the Pentagon. And finally, at 10:03 a.m., the final plane would crash into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Hundreds of thousands of tons of toxic debris were spread across lower Manhattan when the towers collapsed, causing decimation to the immune systems and lives of New Yorkers. The New York Stock Exchange closed for 7 days, and an estimated 430,000 jobs and $2.8 billion in wages were lost in the first 3 months after the attacks. General travel and terrorism anxiety skyrocketed in the United States as a whole. Nearly 3,000 people died, and it's estimated that between 6,000 and 25,000 people were injured. And on top of that, racism, unfair treatment, and general fear towards Muslim and Islamic Americans skyrocketed, the effects of which can still be felt even almost 25 years later. But clearly, the most important question everyone asked was, what about Halloween Horror Nights? Universal was in a sticky situation. Their originally planned event was tone deaf at best. Scare zones like Bloodbath Underground, Dead Zone, and Slasher Alley, haunted houses like Terrorland and the Mummy Returns Temple of Terror, the Festival of the Dead Parade, and even multiple parts of the roaming entertainment like the Chainsaw Drill Team and Igor's Rolling Autopsy. All of these things would need to be changed. And even worse, the event opened on October 5th, 2001, less than 1 month away. Eddie Schmidt, also known as Eddie Sawyer for this event, was originally conceptualized for the 2001 event. His tagline, I see you, was a play on words for the phrase, I see you. He was planned to chase guests around with his chainsaw drill team, operated his own haunt called Run, and would be the icon for the event. But clearly that couldn't happen anymore. Universal feared that Eddie's event was too full of gore and viscera for a post-9/11 America. So, Universal made the decision to change the name of multiple attractions for the event and completely remove Eddie as the icon for the year. Dead Zone became The Unknown, Slasher Alley became Nightmare Alley, Bloodbath Underground became Ooze Zone, with the planned red lighting changed to green. The Mummy Returns Temple of Terror changed titles to The Mummy Returns The Curse Continues, and the Festival of the Dead Parade became Nightmares on Parade. The Chainsaw Drill Team and Igor's Rolling Autopsy were both removed. And finally, Eddie Sawyer was replaced by none other than Jack the Clown. All of the marketing for Eddie was removed and replaced with marketing for Jack. The ICU tagline was replaced by Jack's back. Unfortunately, this would set the tone for the rest of Eddie's appearances at Halloween Horror Nights. After the 2001 event, Eddie wouldn't make another appearance until 2004. Here, he was one of the icons featured inside the Horror Nights Nightmares house. In this house, Eddie actually did get his own section. Upon entering the room, Eddie himself would appear, in front of a wall of skulls pulled from the bodies of his victims. The next room would take guests through a long hallway constructed of wooden planks. And through the gaps of these planks, guests would be able to see Eddie's chainsaw drill team reaching for them on both sides. For the conclusion of the house, guests would enter into a room covered in fog, full of hanging bloody bed sheets with members of the drill team chasing them. 2006 would give Eddie his own house, Run Hostile Territory. This would be the sequel to Run from 2001, which had all of the mentions of Eddie removed from it. Loosely based on the 2005 film Hostel, instead of having Eddie and his followers chasing people through an evil game show, Eddie would be running a murder-for-hire company. Individuals could pay a price, and Eddie and his followers would torture and murder people as requested. As mentioned in the backstory section, this was marketed under the very misleading title of Oddfellows Ultimate Ventures, and eventually the same people that were hiring Eddie would meet the same fate as the people they paid Eddie to kill. 4 years later, Eddie would return for 2010's Horror Nights: The Hallowed Past. He would be featured in the last scene of the house, a prop storage warehouse with other icons alongside him. He would also appear in the Fear Revealed scare zone this year, a scare zone dedicated to the icons where guests could have small meet and greets with them. From here on out, Eddie would only be featured at anniversary events. 2015 brought Jack back as the icon of the event, and Eddie alongside him. He would be featured in Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem. For this house, guests would enter into Jack's makeup room inside of his carnival, and the final scene in this section would bring guests outside the carnival's big top. Here, guests could see equipment from Jack's caravan on one side and a large amount of butchering tools on the other. On the side with Jack's belongings, Eddie would attack guests with his chainsaw, while Meaty Meats from Leave It to Cleaver would attack from the other side with all of the butchering tools. Eddie would also appear in the Icons HHN scare zone this year. Jack, alongside the 4 Heralds of Fear, the Caretaker, the Storyteller, the Usher, and the Director, would each have their own stage where they acted out some of their most iconic kills. They would also take photos and do little meet and greets with guests. From what I can tell, Eddie did not have his own stage. He was simply just a roaming character in the scare zone. The next anniversary, originally planned for 2020 but postponed for obvious reasons, took place in 2021 for the 30th anniversary of the event. There was a full Halloween Horror Nights Icons house, HHN Icons Capture, but Eddie was not featured in this house. He did actually receive his own scare zone, Lights Camera Action Eddie's Revenge. The story goes that you would go to a movie backlot, prepared to make a feature film based on the creatures from Halloween Horror Nights. Suddenly, the real monsters, led by Eddie, would show up, wreaking havoc and demanding the media attention they feel like they have always deserved. The official description of the house read further, "Unlike his older brother Jack, Eddie is not a handsome man and has always resented his siblings' fame, fortune, and glory. He plans to get even and nothing will stand in his way, especially you." Horror Nights, we looking at the same guy here? Not a handsome man. Maybe I'm a fool. Maybe I'm a blind fool, but, you know. In 2021, he was also featured in the 30 Years, 30 Fears scare zone. Is it even really a scare zone if it's just pictures of the icons? And currently, that is the last event that Eddie and the icons as a whole have appeared at. Eddie was featured at 5 separate Halloween Horror Nights events. He got 4 haunted houses and 4 scare zones, if you count 30 Years, 30 Fears as a scare zone. Eddie was never really given the chance to fully shine as an icon, especially considering how he started out. I personally really love Eddie. I think that his backstory is really cool, and it sucks that he got such a shitty start as an icon, especially considering he was planned to be an icon at a similar level as like the Storyteller, the Director, the Caretaker, and Jack. And even though I desperately want him to get his time to fully shine, it seems like the icons are not going to be utilized outside of anniversary events. And even then, especially recently, the anniversary years feel far more like they're less focused on the icons as a part of Horror Nights history, and they're far more focused on bringing pre-existing houses and IPs back. Hopefully Eddie gets his time to shine sometime soon. Hey, maybe for the 35th anniversary. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Eddie is a really interesting icon to me, and I really think he's underutilized. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can find my social media linked through my card, which is in the description. I've also done a few other Horror Nights history videos in the past. I've done them on Jack the Clown, Chance, and the Director, so if you want more lore, you go watch those. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Bye. crashed into the North Tower. Oh my god, if I could speak, please. I'm talking about 9/11.